Welcome to the 293 Co podcast. Today's topic is, what is happiness? Let's get into it.
Let's go. You know what is happiness? I guess the term of that would be like, how do you define happiness for you? What do it look like? I guess for me, it's just like happiness is one of those things that I feel like I'm still trying to strive for and get, because I feel like saying that I'm happy, I think I'm getting that confused with like, in the moment, I'm excited. That's totally two different things. You see what I'm saying?
Elaborate more.
Because you can be excited about something that only lasts for a few minutes. But how happiness is portrayed in society today is something that's supposed to make you feel like you're on top of the world forever. Like everything is good. Everything is great. You know what I'm saying? And it's like life don't operate like that.
No, you're right. I think happiness depends on your own choice. I think people are relying on people to make them happy or material things to make them happy. And at the end of the day, I mean, you can have all the money in the world and have that biggest house, the nice cars, and still be unhappy.
Yeah, you can. And I mean, it happens a lot of times, but then it's just like you have to look back at yourself. But you think about it too. When we talk about happiness, it was something that was instilled in us at a young age. We didn't even really know what it meant. We just thought it was something that was like cool. And like, if I'm happy, I'm always going to feel like this. I'm going to feel great. And it's like being in a bubble that don't even exist.
Well, it's all about what we were taught back then, or not even taught. I think it was just, we saw our parents do it. We saw our friends do it. We saw teachers do it. Right. We saw people around us do it. I think it was like, okay, that's what happiness looked like. Of course I had uncles that had a lot of money, or aunts that had a lot of money. And it was just like, okay, if you got a lot of money, that's what makes you happy, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then come to find out, as you get older, you become an adult and you do get those things, like you be like, okay, like this is not making me happy. So I think with happiness, you got to have a purpose.
You got to have a purpose. But you know what? Going back to what you said, like even in our younger days and stuff like that, I guess the thing of it is that like when you come from nothing, you think that happiness is what's going to make you feel like you're on top of the world. Just like you said, when you don't come from anything and you start getting the money rolled in, or you get in a relationship and that person is like the world of your life, right? You sitting here thinking that like, I'm really happy. But then you got to ask yourself, how long will that last? That's just like when people are fall in love and they start dating, courting, or whatever you want to call it, and then they get married and everything. And when all that come to a standstill, right? What do you have left besides just sitting there with each other, looking at each other?
I feel like that's a moment.
You're right. It is a moment, because most of the time, what do people say? Man, my wedding was the happiest day of my life.
You full of shit. Wait till you get a divorce.
But you see what I'm saying? How often do you hear that though? A lot.
I used to hear it a lot.
Because you know
even
what?
at the wedding, right? The groom would say, be crying and stuff. This is like the happiest day of my life. It's the perfect day.
Well, they're not lying when they said day, because it's only a day. Right? Because then after that, after you take those clothes off and you give it about a month or two, reality really set in, and you stuck with each other, then you get all these challenges.
You're right.
Then you got to ask yourself again, what do my happiness look like? What are you reaching for? Because you know what? For some of us, being happy is like a yo-yo. It comes, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And you holding that string, trying to keep control of it and keep it intact to keep going. But what if you run out? What if that string get cut? What if it don't want to roll up no more? It takes you to wind it back up again to find your own happiness. But then you go back on that roller coaster, you're going up and down, up and down, up and down. So then you got to ask yourself, what are you really doing? What are you really striving for? Is you so determined to get to this happy place and stay there? What is it really going to take to stay there? Because honestly, if you really think about it, being happy isn't real. It's a fantasy. Being happy isn't real. It's a fantasy. What I'm saying is, okay, look, but you know what I'm saying? But see, this is why we having this discussion though. The reason why I say that, right, is because if on the mental aspect of it, you have those days where depression come knocking at your door, jumping on your shoulder saying, hey, we're going to chill in today. You're going to stay in the bed. You're going to just like sleep life away, yada, 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 right?
Right.
Happiness outside knocking at the door to my, hey, let me in. Let's open up these blinds, get the sunshine, the vitamin C or whatever, but you just can't seem to do it. Now, happiness is a choice, right?
Yeah.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
But sometimes some people have a struggle to make that choice. Depression isn't a choice, not for everybody. So happiness is kind of like a fantasy, but happiness is one of those things sometimes when you stuck in a depressive state where it's like, hey, I may be reaching for something that's not possible. Not saying that you can't go in life and have good days. But striving for that happiness and thinking that like, oh, my world's going to change if I reach that point, that ain't real. Right. That's what I mean by the fantasy. Maybe sometimes we set ourselves up for failure reaching for something that may not be possible. Like you said before, you can have those days, but for it to last for a lifetime, nah.
Happiness within, and a lot of us don't know as we get older, as kids, happiness is smiling, being happy all the time, and it feels good all the time, right? And that's what we think happiness is. Like even when you're a teenager and you get in a relationship and you're like, oh, this person makes me feel so happy.
Yeah.
So I love this person so much, right? And then you turn around, if that person say something that's truthful or honest to you and uncomfortable, you say, you're making me unhappy.
True. That's so
now
true.
you start having these uncomfortable conversations, and, a person will go back and say, well, I'm just not happy in this relationship.
Right.
Because you don't make me happy. Now that I deal with, your shit, and I'm telling you about your shit, now I'm making you unhappy.
Right. And think about this right here, because you brought up a good point when you said about happiness look like, the smiles and all that or whatever, right? What you just described was a mask.
Really, it's in that moment feeling.
You ran the mask. You put that mask on because you have to justify to everybody like, hey, look at me, I'm a happy person. And you may not be, but you have to be sold on that, because if everybody else is around in the room smiling or whatever, what else you supposed to do? You got to look happy too, right?
You want to fit in, especially when you're young. Everybody wants to fit in.
Well, even, what I'm saying, just like even now, it's like when you walk outside your household, you're going to run into so many different type of people, whether you're going to the grocery store, wherever you're going, to the mall, to the park, and people are going to be kind. They may smile, they may wave, they may look like they're having fun and you looking at them from a far distance. And in your mind, instantly you looking like, oh, everybody around me look happy. That's what you go to. But we don't know how people really is behind closed doors, because when we walk outside, one thing that we automatically do is become the representative to ourselves on how society wants us to be.
You're afraid if somebody knows the truth, what that looks like for them.
Exactly.
So if you go, you know what, today I'm not having a good day, I'm really unhappy. What's making me unhappy? And somebody says, like, you're a negative Nelly.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, I'm just happy or I'm unhappy. It's like, you're a negative Nelly. You need to figure out, like, why you're not happy. Okay. But they turn it around and make it like a taboo.
Yeah.
And like I said, in order to be happy, it really starts. And I think as we grow older, it's not until we get in our late 40s or 60s or damn near death. We got to have a death experience to know what that's like.
Yeah, you're right. And I think for some people, that's when the light bulb actually get turned on and they like, you know what, I can't hide how I feel no more. Because I guarantee you, if you're not a happy person, when you're younger and if you're not doing your work on yourself, it's easier to cover up. You see what I'm saying? It's way easier to cover that up.
You're always going to look for someone to do that for you.
Right. But as you get older, or even you could be young. I don't even want to say as you get older. I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like you could be young, getting older, like in, early 20s or even like late teens. And you start doing your work, you start realizing like, hey, this doesn't work for me anymore. This is really stressing me out. Let me let people know how I really am. I need to start speaking up for myself. If you're not happy, it's okay not to be happy. Just like we tell people, it's okay not to be okay. But it's also okay not to be happy, because that's not real. Nobody in life is going to walk around 24 hours a day happy. You're going to be up and down. When people look at celebrities and you have your favorite TV shows, and prime example, Robin Williams, the comedian. Everybody only known him for being that happy-go-lucky comedian that made everybody laugh, but nobody really knew the struggles about his personal life, which he kept private because people was never going to get it anyway. Because the thing of it is, it would get thrown back in his face on, well, you one of the greatest people, you make us laugh, this is what you do, focus on that and keep doing what you do. But who is it pleasing? It wasn't helping him.
It was pleasing everybody else. He was happy to make, I think his thought of what happiness was making people smile and laugh, because he didn't want people to go through the same pain.
That's caretaking. Also, that's people pleasing. And you get stuck in that role because of the simple fact, and I can be a prime example of it. You do it because you don't want nobody else to feel the pain that you're going through. Because everybody's suffering in that way. It's different for everybody, but the hole is so deep. Sometimes you wonder, hey, am I ever going to be able to get out of it? Even if you get halfway, you still going to make sure that everybody around you is better off than what you're doing, even though you're the one that's in survival mode trying to survive. Because you can't explain stuff to people that don't understand what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, people can ask you questions all day, especially from a mental aspect, and they may get confused on why you're not happy. But if they can't understand the mental aspect or who you are as a person, how they going to understand the whole happiness of where you trying to get? Like I said, happiness for everybody some people will never reach it. Some people going to stay on that treadmill, running their ass off, hoping they get to the end of the road to where they see the rainbows and the sunshine. But you know what? Some of them can't even get over the speed bump to continue the race.
Well, yeah, I think eventually.
Maybe in death, but you know what? And that's something that's still up in the air. We never know. Because you know what? You can sit there and you can say over and over again, like if your therapist asks you, what is it that you want to be? What is something in life that you really want? And like I said, once again, I'm a prime example. I just tell my therapist, hey, I just want to be happy. And she asks me, what do that look like? And you know what I go back to? Oh, TV set, what I see, everybody that's around me that look like they're happy, that may not have their shit together, but their mask's not coming off. It's not falling apart, you know? So it's just like you do your observation of everybody around you. We all do it, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at home, whether it's in with your family ties. We all do it at some point in our life. Some do it more than others. Mm-hmm. Some people actually go so far with it to where they like breaking down every step of the way, the process of it, trying to figure it out. It's like a chemistry set. You trying to figure out, how can I get to this happiness piece that I see everybody around me that look like they're just happy as hell and they got their life together? How do I get there? And so, you know, trying to tell that with somebody who struggled from severe depression, they looking at it like, man, this is like a mind maze. Every time you start out thinking that you done figured out a solution, you crumbling that paper again, throwing it away, starting over every single day because it ain't getting you to the end.
I think for me, for the longest, you know, as a child, I used to think, oh, like my friends would go camping, hiking, and hunting and shit,
right?
And or do like fun things, right, with their parents or their dad. And I used to be like, my friends used to come and they used to be like so happy, and I see them like in the car just driving off to camp and stuff like that, and they'd be so happy, and I used to be like, damn, that's what I want. So I used to say, you know what, I used to create this idea of what I wanted, right? I wanted like that feeling, you know, to go the same thing that my friends got with their dad, I wanted to do too. You know what I'm saying? I wanted that same feeling. And it's just like, you know, I did a lot of searching. And then when I finally did find my dad, or you know, been around, and it was just like, this ain't what it is. And then I would look for something else. You know? Oh, like somebody was in love. Oh, that's what happiness is. Look, there's so much in love. Like TV would show us and it would tell us clearly what not to do, but we do it because that's what we want. That's what happiness look like, right?
Right, you're right.
And I used to be like, damn, you know, I want somebody, a companionship that I can love, trust, someone who's going to love me, trust me back, right? I got that, and I still wasn't happy.
Right.
Then, you know, I went off to college, you know, I want everybody, oh, you know, you go off to college, that probably make you, that didn't make me happy either.
Right.
You know,
it added to your grocery list.
It added to my grocery list.
Yes.
And then, you know, it was just like, well, you know, maybe I should, you know, I'm doing all this chasing.
Right.
You know, maybe it's this that makes me happy. Or no, you know, this person didn't make me happy. Maybe this person will make me happy. And it wasn't until I started going to meditation. I remember my first time going to meditation, right? And I can tell you this, when I did the meditation, I saw a vision that had no material, that had no...
Right.
It just had me in the forest.
So you had to deal with yourself.
Right. And there was a bright light, and it was kind of like, it reminded me of New Mexico when the sun hits the red clay.
Okay.
And it gives that orangey yellow looking feeling.
Right.
But it also had like blue teal. And at that moment, it hit me when they said, open your eyes.
Yeah.
I can tell you, that was like my saddest moment, realistic moment that I had.
Why is that?
Because at the end of the day, I was chasing everything to make me feel happy. And I pretty much told myself, this is what makes me happy. At the end of the day, it was me that I needed to fix, that I needed to be happy with myself. Right. So there was a lot of things that I saw that I wasn't happy. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I remember coming home, you know, I remember like going to the garage, and I cried like snot like a baby. I cried like, because I thought that loving my family and being all I can to my family would make me happy. And then at the end of the day, I didn't have no clue. Somebody asked me, said, what makes you happy? I don't know.
Wow.
So that just showed me, damn, I didn't value myself, nor did I look at myself. I looked at everybody else but myself. So every time I would get to the mirror, it was almost like a blip. Like I didn't really pay attention.
So do you feel like, you know, how like you hear people say today, when some people ask people that question, you know, hey, what makes you happy? And they'll say, my family. I do it for them.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's just the answer. They never really answer the question. Don't get me wrong. Your family can make you happy. You can do everything for your family if you're the provider or whatever. But when you dissect that and look at you as a person, you got to ask yourself, are you really happy? You know what I'm saying?
That's what made the caretaker, provider,
Right.
protector over my family. And then I realized it had nothing to do with my family. Because if that shit all goes away and people say, and you know, at that time, there was a lot of stuff going on where people were disrespectful. People, you know, they didn't see my worth or my value, but neither did I.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How can I expect them to see my worth and my value when I didn't sell?
Nah, that is
and then
true.
when people start falling off and I start going through these, after that meditation, I was going through a lot of emotional woes. Like I didn't know where to go or who to talk to. You know, I was just dealing with this shit in the garage by myself or in the room with no TV on, just looking at four walls.
You know what? I know it had to be hard, especially like in college. You know, we college athletes. And the one thing that I never could figure out was, you know, when you're already struggling with yourself and trying to find your own happiness and, you know, you playing for your team, you know, playing basketball and they tell you you're playing for this organization. Mm-hmm. But like it's different when you playing for an organization, you know what I'm saying? You get that part, you got, you know, you have the rules and stuff you got to follow and stuff like that and be the representative. But when you get singled out as like, especially when you're a superstar, but then you get singled out even more because then you become a role model, a position that you never really wanted to put yourself into. Because regardless, you end up being a role model for kids, hell, sometimes even for adults. When people start basing their life off of seeing you play on the court and they just assume off the court that you have no struggles and your life just perfect because you coming out here putting on the show every other night. People don't understand the stress that get put on top of you that also destroy your own happiness. Yeah. They don't realize that.
Because really you playing for them.
You're playing for them.
When it's no longer fun.
Right. And that's kind of how it was when I was overseas. Mm-hmm. Like I worked so hard. I bust my ass to get there because that was a goal. That was like, you know what? I'm getting up out of the States. I want to go live overseas. I want to play pro basketball. Dream came true. But after doing it for so long, what I envisioned wasn't how it was supposed to be. I was supposed to be happy. You know what I'm saying? Like I finally get here. There's no higher goal set because the goal set was to go overseas and play basketball. Because, you know, at the time, you know, the WNBA was just getting started, wasn't as popular yet. You know, we had the ABA at the time, but you know, that fell off.
Yeah, that fell
So, you know, it was either go overseas or go for the WNBA, you know? And it was just like, went overseas. I was supposed to be happy. Like my mindset was like, you know, I'm gonna be over there forever. But then it hit me over there. Don't know how to speak the language. Nobody knows me yet. You know, I'm used to playing in front of, you know, family and friends. Mm-hmm. You know, that's like the biggest support, you know, and then you get somewhere where you don't know nobody. You don't have not one relative, one close friend or anybody that being able to see your games. You're doing a lot of traveling and then you come home to an empty house. You did what you needed to do, but then it's like, man, it's a 9-hour time difference. I can't even call my mama yet and be like, hey, yo, mom, tell you about the game. Mm-hmm. How I used to do from, you know, middle school, high school on up. My mom was always there, college, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get to that milestone where it's just like, I was supposed to be happy. Now, you know what sets in? Being alone, having to sit with yourself and figure out, you know what's my next plan? Because I only had a plan A.
I think that's really hard for athletes.
It really is. Because when you're a true athlete, and I'm going to say it again, a true athlete, you don't have a plan B. You have a plan A and you stick with it. You know, just like I tell my players now, it's the difference between being a player and being an athlete. An athlete is going to work their ass off to get to where they need to be. And there is no what else. Because you know, you have that mindset, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? A person, if you're an athlete and you got a plan B, you're not an athlete, you're a player. An athlete never stops. The only way you're going to get stopped down is by injury. You're going to find a way to be able to live out your dream, your goal. You know what I'm saying? You're going to. And that's my mindset on seeing that.
Well, I think now athletes have plan B because they know.
But it's easy to have a plan B sometimes. But the thing of it is, you can be somewhat of an athlete, but you can have a player mentality. And the reason why I say that is because you know for a fact, you've seen a lot of people that come and go throughout middle school, high school, that could be high top prospects and they're athletic. They got the skill set. They need some tuning and they need discipline. They need, you know, structure, but they're really athletic, but they think like a player. They don't go anywhere. So those are the ones that I'm saying that has the plan A and the plan B. Well, if it don't work out, you know what I'm saying? Because they're not set with that mentality to say, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to train. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to do what I got to do. You know, the reason why I think in our generation, we was built different is because we came from nothing. We came out the room with the struggle. Our parents let us see the struggle.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, most kids don't have to go through that. And the ones who do go through through it, and it's a small percentage that still go through that struggle. You know, they have those obstacles where there was like, you know what I'm saying? Now, for us, it's like this. You got travel team and you got AAU, which is popular. We had AAU too, but AAU didn't take away from it as it is now. Now kids are not even playing in high school. They just strictly do AAU, and it's because it's more traveling now. See, back in our era when we had AAU, that was summer ball, but you still play for your high school team. Now these kids today, they can transfer to whatever state, whatever school they want to go to, but AAU was all year round now. Back in our era, it wasn't all year round like that. It was summer ball. It's not summer ball no more. And so a lot of kids strictly play AAU all year round so they can get scouted and looked at. But the thing of it is, you still have a small percentage of those kids on those teams. You got some that are players because, their parents done paid or they got them on the team because who know who or whatever like that. And you know what I'm saying? They could be great, but you know what I'm saying? If they're around all the people that are already great, they gonna half-ass and just be, you know what? I could be there too, but you know what? I'm a player. I get in when I get in. I can say I was a part of this, you know? But it also comes with the struggle of how bad do you want it? And I feel like most athletes who really, really want it are low-key also searching for happiness.
Oh man, I mean, a lot of players, you'll see them, I felt like sports get away and to deal with all my men.
Right.
Like athletes never talked about a lot of shit.
Nah.
We didn't tell you how we felt. It was hard for us to express our emotions when it comes to, like what's really going on.
Right.
You're like, nothing. I'll just hit the court. I'm going to tell you, once I hit the court, everything left. It was like a drug.
And it is. And it was
dangerous.
And the thing of it is now, the hardest part for athletes is that once you have to put that ball down, you have to sit with yourself. Because like you just said, when you hit the court, everything disappeared. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, once your body say, hey, I can't do how I used to do, you still push yourself. You still push yourself. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, regardless, it's that heart and that drive. It's the heart and the drive.
Nah,
it's just like me. I love sports. I'm a sports fanatic. You know what I'm saying? My knees are not. My knees are like 90 years old. Do I stop? No, I don't.
190.
You know what I'm saying? I don't stop. Because you know what I'm saying? It's like, I can get out here and play any sport. I'm still going to be competitive. I may be slower.
Right,
I mean, after having 5 knee surgeries, I mean, what you expect, But it's not a sport out here that I won't compete in.
Yeah, I think for like athletes like us, though, I'm going to tell you this. When I go to Target, it's the weirdest shit. It's the weirdest shit.
Because it's Target.
Yeah. Because it's Target. But when I go to Target, I go straight to the sports section. I'm going to tell you, it never fails.
Yeah.
I find a basketball. If I touch that basketball, I pick it up, especially if it's a good basketball. And I pick it up. Like I have to touch it, I have to bounce it. And then by the time I'm done, I put it back on the shelf, right? Like I feel good.
Right.
And that's scary.
Right.
That's scary. So I like it's, I know what it is like being an athlete and searching, for happiness on the court.
Yeah.
And then it gets out of control if we don't control our mental. And I know for me, I'm a prime example of what that looks like. Looking for happiness when we're young, man, we balling out of control.
Right. I mean, you get in trouble because like, you need to come in the house.
Right. You need to come in the house. We dunking on motherfuckers, like showing off and shit. But when you don't deal with yourself, it comes out on the court. And for me, anyone can tell you, anyone that I went to high school, it got to the point where I was literally beating motherfuckers up. It was that bad.
You probably should have went to boxing.
I did boxing too. I did martial arts. I did kickboxing. I did capoeira. So I was in a lot of shit, to mask a lot of the things. Like I said, it was like I was searching for something and I couldn't quite find it. It was like an itch.
Right.
You got that one itch. I know that happiness is there. I just can't scratch it.
Right.
So, but I was a good athlete. I was a superb athlete, but my attitude got in the way. Everything that I was feeling, everything I was dealing with at home, especially if you're a super unique, you know this. If you're a superstar athlete at high school or middle school, there's going to be articles on you in the newspaper.
Oh, period. Yeah.
They always want to know something.
Yep.
So they treat you like you're a celebrity A-lister, right?
Yep.
Not knowing the effects that it has on you as a teenager or a child. And it affects your home life, but it also affects your relationship with your peers.
It really does, because you know what? You get singled out. And I mean, like for me, at a young age, it was really bad because, going into like my middle school, They started back up the basketball team when I got into 7th grade, because the middle school before I got there, they had stopped all sports. But basketball started back up. Well, they still had football. So it was only football and basketball at the time. So, 7th grade year, I played really shy because I've been playing basketball, but it was my first time playing organized because I always played at grandma's house with my cousins, with all the boys. Right. And I mean, I could really ball, but when I had to be on the actual female team, I kind of was just like, you know what? I'm not going to do too much. I just everybody. But I was playing with people who really didn't know how to play and they wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to keep it real. So I would get in trouble. I would get in trouble because the coach knew what talent I had. My mama knew what talent I had. And, you get home, you get that lecture about you wasting everybody's time by going out there and not showcasing. So, what got into my 8th grade year? I knew better. I showcased what I had to do. Carried the whole team. But then that's what came the pressure, I'm in 8th grade, and next thing you know is the varsity coach is coming to the middle school and was like, hey, we want you to play varsity next year. You come to basketball camp with us. I'm only at 8th grade. You know what I'm saying? They saw the potential when I was in the 7th grade, and they knew that I was holding back. They wanted me to play high school ball in the 8th grade because at the time you could do that. So it was I'm just like, oh my God, here come the spotlight, because I was a shy and timid kid. Most people wouldn't No, I was very shy. I was very timid because I didn't like people. I didn't want nobody talking to me, touching me. That was just one of those things where it was just oh, this is overwhelming. Why are you talking to me right now? And I'm straight faced looking at you. But I would still be kind and polite. You know what I'm saying? But what came with that is the pressure. Because as a kid, you okay, I'm over here making everybody happy and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm playing basketball. Yes, it's fun. But then, you don't know how it's going to be when you get home. Yeah. The worries. When you're a kid and you worrying about adult life situations, you know what I'm saying? Just because you want everybody around you to be happy. But then what happens is coming from a small town, when everybody know everybody, every time they would see me, hey, how that basketball going? Or they see my mom, they asking about me still to this day. And I'm like, I don't even play basketball anymore. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it's once you win an article, you always in an article. And people, and even, people understand this if you come from a small town, especially if you live in the South. High school sports are a huge thing. When your name is in the paper and then it goes from a small town paper, which is local paper, to the big paper or whatever like that, people kept the articles. I still got my scrapbook with all my newspaper clippings from high school, middle school, when I was overseas. You know what I'm saying? And I got to the point where I would highlight my points, you know what I'm saying? Like an OCD thing to make sure that I'm staying in average to please everybody else. Because you learn at a young age, hey, I can't go out here and play no more. I got to actually carry my team. You start learning responsibility, but nobody ever checked on your mental.
Also, that make you happy.
Right. And back then, I wasn't playing to be happy or have fun. I was playing to get out.
Man, that was 95% of us.
Because, back in our era, it was like this. College was one of the things where you had to go, in order to get a job or do whatever, you had to go to college. It ain't like how it is today.
No, you're right.
But we both know the only way you was going to go to college is you had to get a scholarship. That was the only way you was going to be able to go to college. Parents couldn't afford that. So then what happened was basketball became a job.
Yeah. Here's my question. When did it become a job for you? Mine started, I want to say, my freshman year, almost the end of my freshman year.
Nah, for me, it started my 10th grade year. The reason why I started my 10th grade year is because my 10th grade year was my breakout year. Okay. So I had accomplished all the accolades in middle school. You know what I'm saying? Got the jersey retired on the wall. I mean, my 8th grade year, I went all out. It was so good my 8th grade year that my history teacher, who was my basketball coach my 7th grade year, before he realized that he wasn't really good at coaching basketball because he didn't know nothing about it, he would tell me literally, and my mom knew this, you know what I'm saying? My mom couldn't even believe it at the time. My basketball coach, we had a pact with my ex-basketball coach. He would say, hey, Bonnie, we would play on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you go and score this amount of points, when it came to taking your test, you ain't got to take. All I had to do, we would make, hey, how many I got to score tonight? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's where it all started, And as an 8th grader, it's man, this is really fun, Going into my 9th grade year, it was a different transition because now it's here my peers that I played with in high school, they're all going JV. I'm on the varsity. So I'm on the varsity with seniors and juniors, and it's just whoa. But here's the catch though. I was starting varsity, Now I'm a bigger role. So I'm okay, once again, I got put into that. I got put on the court and it's just what everybody just say, oh, just go out and play ball, do what you do. And it's just the nervousness kicked in. So once again, I went into that role like I did my 7th grade year where it was kind of you know what, let me see what everybody around me can do. Then it came back to getting yelled at again. Everybody knew I can play the game. I play with boys all the time. I never played with girls outside of high school. It was always with the boys.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping up with the boys, you know? So 10th grade year, that was my time to shine. You know, I felt like, okay, you know what? I kind of let everybody do their thing. Now I'm coming in my 10th grade year. Boom, I blew up. Letters start coming in. And that's when I first went overseas, going into my 11th grade year. Got invitational to go overseas to play in the Junior Olympics. Got an opportunity to do that. But then 10th grade year is where it set the milestone. That was the same year my grandma passed away. And so I was just kind of like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. But I just came off a good year. But I wasn't happy because basketball became a job. I played other sports and I was good at them too. I played tennis. I played softball. I even ran track. But then I quit track and I ran cross country my first year to go into, you know, train for basketball going into my 9th grade year. I don't know why I don't know why in the hell I did cross country. Cause I mean, like, hey, that's just not for black people. It's not for us. It's not
for you.
No, we built different when you from the States. Now, if we was from Africa or somewhere, they trained for that. I don't know what I was thinking. But you know what I'm saying? But like the thing of it is that like that mindset. And so that's when I knew then it became a job because now it got real. Taking ACT, SATs, you know, schools are looking at me now. You know what I'm saying? The coach started to give me those one-on-one talks, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like, damn, all eyes are on me. But nobody ever asked, like, what is it that you want to do? They ask about what choices you want to make, like what school you going to decide or whatever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But then, like, even going to go visit schools, you know, you think as a kid, like, oh, that's about to be fun. But it wasn't fun. It was pressure. That was absolutely pressure. Because it's like you only get a short period of time, you know, where everybody, you know, you go on these visits, right? Everybody telling you the same shit to get you to come to their school. But you know, once I get here, hey, I'm just another number. So it's fun in the beginning when you get recruited and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But then it's just like at the same time, it's a lot of pressure, you know? That's why I end up going the JUCO route because I'm just like, man, a couple of my friends was going there. The coaches had scouted on me and some of my friends that I played against in our conference because we had one of the toughest conference, you know, and we all played on the same AAU team.
Okay.
So this one basketball coach, Coach Henderson, shout out, she was just like, hey, I got to have the best of the players on my team. You know, you get your 2-year education, you know, it's not hard and you still going up to the D1 challenge, but you know, you kind of get that whole, what it's like being in college, you know?
Well, the South is different.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Junior college is mostly like South and East Coast. Not too many over here to have community college, but junior college is totally different, you know?
That's like Division 1.
But then at the same time, tennis was also my passion. Most people didn't know I played tennis. You know, I played it throughout high school. So it was like when I got to my sophomore year and it was time to pick a school, it was like, man, basketball is what I worked all my life for. Mm-hmm. Tennis is also a passion because I was hella good at tennis. So then I had to choose which route I was going to go because being in junior college, I'm getting scholarships for tennis too. So it's like, which one I'm going to choose? And you know, you have people telling you, hey, well, if you come here and make this your main sport, we'll make sure you play this sport. Yeah. But they weren't saying that on the basketball side. But if I came for tennis, they was also saying they would let me play basketball too. But the basketball side is like, hey, if you come in for basketball, you aren't going to be able to play basketball, you know? Yeah. Because I'm just like, man, if I go the tennis route, then it's like, my mom ain't got money for me to go out here and compete in these tournaments because in tennis, it's a little bit different from other sports. Mm-hmm. In order for you to make it to the top A levels, you got to put money in, you know, you got to have a trainer, got to pay them to get you ready to compete in tournaments that you don't know whether or not you're going to win or lose because you don't really know your opponent like that. And like you could really study, you know what I'm saying? Like you can basketball, you can watch film and tape. Tennis is not like that, you know? So it's kind of like you got to take the choice that what's that best fits for you, but also kind of like what best fits for everybody too. So basketball was the route because that's the way that was, you know, I thought that was my happiness at the time. But have you noticed I don't even pick up basketball no more?
Basketball. I think I felt like back in the day, a lot of us played sports. It was really...
That's all what it was. It was an outlet.
It was an outlet. It was a way to cope at that moment. What they don't tell you, sometimes that moment don't last but a second. It starts to spill over to something that you thought you were past. It really does destroy it.
You know what it is? It's one of those trendings where it's like either your parents or your uncles or aunts or whoever played sports before you in their era, and they could have made it to college, but didn't. And so whoever next in the generation that's good, all that pressure get put on you because they may not have gotten there. Right. But then once you look like you on that path to get there, then everybody jumping on the bandwagon and they pushing you, but they don't understand the effects of how it's really affecting. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, look at it now. You know, you got people that are like hardcore, you know, sports fanatics. And you could be, you know, a Boston Celtics fan. Mm-hmm. You have a kid, that kid gonna be a Boston Celtics fan too because you are. Yeah. Why that kid don't get a choice?
I got a lot of family that Dallas Cowboys.
You know what I'm saying? But why don't the kid get a choice? So it starts early, whether you play sports or not. But as soon as somebody have a child, you know what I'm saying? Boom, they sticking them on what they want to be.
Also got to look at it this way too. You see your parents shouting, and actually people are actually getting along at that moment.
Right.
And so your child look at that and they're like, you know what, this is what makes, my family happy. This is what happiness look like. So, of course I'm going to fall in line with the Dallas Cowboy, and I'm not a fan.
But when you think about it, happiness stems from a long way. Just like, same thing with religion. If you grow up in a religious household, you ain't got no choice but to go to church, whether you want to go or not.
I never, that was one of my things too that I struggled. And I still, no, I don't struggle with it anymore. But it was like, prime example, we all go to church. I mean, we used to go to church from Monday through Sunday. And really what my grandma did was she used that as a daycare. She really did. She used it as a daycare. It was at that time. But if you think about it, they always say, you got to pray. You got to, you got to do this. It'll bring you happy. I don't know what that means. I'm a child. You're telling me I got to do this every day. And, I saw things differently than a lot of my peers that I grew up with. And a lot of my family members too that I grew up with. A lot of things, I was a thinker. People didn't know that, but I was very quiet, shy too. But I also would think like, that don't make sense what you saying.
Right. And you would sit there and you try to dissect it, but you would do it quietly. You're just like, nah, I got to really dissect this because what you saying don't make sense.
It made no sense at all.
Yeah.
But, it's like, oh, you got to pray. And you see people like, I'm so happy. But yet you go home. Your husband's still cheating.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You still getting your ass beat. You still like trying to figure out who you really are. So how's this bringing you happiness? Now it's bringing you, and no shade to, any religion. We all got to have our spiritual beliefs, which helps us move towards a lighter day. But, I just felt like it was very misleading.
Nah, you're right. Because me and my mom have had this conversation a couple of times. Like I told my mom, I was just like, as me and my siblings got older and we moved out the house and stuff like that, it was like, then you had a choice whether or not you wanted to go to church.
Right.
But when you living under your parents' household, you don't have no choice. And, I never could figure out, just like, man, like, I used to be mad. I used to be one of them kids mad, when you in school or whatever, summer's out, you be like, okay, the only day I got to really get up early is, Sunday morning. But when you're in school, it's like, say you're supposed to have Saturday and Sunday, what you think, right? Before you got to go back to school on Monday. But it's like, okay, you got to go to bed early on Saturday because Sunday school started at 8:30 in the morning. So you get about an hour and 15 minutes in Sunday school. Then you got to go into the, congregational hall, area, and then you do your praise or whatever. And then, for Black people, we always get out of church at 1:00. That's one thing I was always trying to figure out. Why we got to be in church the longest?
We don't even get out of church at 1:00. We got to go eat. We got to go talk to Aunt May. She want to ask questions. And because she want to be nosy, and the whole pew want to be nosy.
But you always had that uncle or aunt at church that always had candy. They had that peppermint candy. You had to go see them. And then why is it on Sundays or whatever? It's just like, after service is over, you be ready to go home and eat. You know what I'm saying? Because the food going to be good. Because we would always go back to my grandma's house and everybody go down there and we would always eat. And then everybody go outside and play. Be at grandma's house about a good 5-6 hours and everybody go home and start their day. But the thing of it is that, going to church and being there till 1:00, it's just kind of like, man, I see these other churches getting out at noon, no later than 12:30. What made it? Who made the rule that we have to get out at 1:00? Like, I used to be mad about that. But then in the summer, I did have a summer though, because we only had to go to vocational Bible study, and that would be like one week out of the summer, and then we'll be done.
She knew it. She knew it.
But when you was on church grounds, you had to be good though.
Well, I used to get my cousin to get in trouble a lot, especially me, because I would question the pastor.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, try to say, I felt like there was a lot of racism, and I remember sitting in the front because he always used to make us sit in the front, right? I remember sitting in the front. And I was just like, got the white kids over there, got us, my grandmother's grandchildren over here, and in the Black side. It was very segregated, I felt like.
Oh, wow.
So I felt like you can't preach nothing when you don't practice or show it in your sermon.
Right.
So I always challenged the pastor. He used to always tell my grandmother, and she was okay with it in the sense of, because she used to always teach us about history.
Right.
And what that was like for us, and her growing up in those eras, what that was like.
Right.
And so of course I would learn that, but I feel like a lot of people really do go to church looking, searching, and not just church. People just search at casinos for money, and I can tell you, I've done it all. I've done it all. Even the money. I've done something. Okay, not like that, but
Come on, like you might want to explain that.
Yeah, not like that. No pimping, no hoeing. But but when you get it, it's just like, well, shit. Money come, money go.
Yeah, money don't bring happiness.
Comes. Yeah, it doesn't. It really does. Like I said, now I'm working on myself and I'm starting to be really happy of what I'm saying. I know I need a lot more work, but I'm really starting to be happy with it. And I think it's the guidance of my grandmother too as well.
Now that's good. I guess one thing that we have to understand, because we all do it, is that when we're working on ourselves, the process is not going to be fast. Like I go to therapy every week. And like my therapist sometimes will say, hey, I see, improvement. And I'll be like, you do? Because you know what I'm saying? It'll be like some stuff that I probably never thought of that I'm like, I'm still struggling on. But even though it may only be 3% improvement, she said, and she let me know. And I just like, oh, okay, all right. Because sometimes you get so stuck not knowing that you have improved in a way. And like when she literally breaks down on like what I was doing way before and how I was to now, I'll be like, oh, I see it. Because sometimes you got to go back into your past to be able to represent your future, your presence, to be like, you know what, now you see the change. And it's like, okay, because I think sometimes when we're working on ourselves, we get so stuck in trying to be perfect to be happy that we don't realize like how far we've actually come. Because we're working on trying to be perfect, which is so that, that's not even possible. But the way our mind will process, that's what we're working towards when it shouldn't be trying to work towards to be perfect. So yeah, you got to ask yourself, like, what is your happiness? You really do. Because we all have a different definition for it.
Right. And here's the other thing too. I'm glad you said, here's the thing. A lot of people, I'm just going to put that out. A lot of people look for people to make them happy.
Right.
And they said, I said in the beginning, you're a teenager, you're looking for that person to make you happy. When you finally find that person, you're like, this person make me happy in that moment. So what happens when you have a fight? What happens when things get rough and hard? Are you still happy? Ooh. Does that person still make you happy?
And that's a good question though, because you know what? Like you just said, if you get with somebody because they make you happy, then you get with them under false pretenses.
You're right.
Because then you never want to deal with any of the other stuff.
You are so right.
Because you feel like you already came into it knowing that you wasn't a happy person. So you need someone to make you happy for you to feel that way. That's not good. That's not good. Now, we're not saying that it's wrong to be with somebody or be around someone who make you happy. Because, I mean, you all need that positive, good energy.
Yeah, but they got to bring their own energy. Like you have to bring your own.
Right. But you got to bring your own energy. You can't rely on that person at 100% to be like, you make me happy. Where are you going? Because you know what? When people do break up, some people fall to pieces because they be like, that was a person that made me happy. And it's just like, okay. But what else did that person bring to the table?
Let me tell you this. I've heard this. When things get tough, right?
Right.
Hard time, you start seeing a person's true color. And this is what they tell you when you bring it up and shit. They say, well, you tricked me. It was false pretense. You act like you were happy. You didn't bring any happiness to the table.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, I started to think about it, back then I would be like, yeah, but then I thought about it. Like, so you only got with me because at that moment I made you happy. When I do everything, I'm a yes, 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 yes.
Wow.
And when I say no and let's talk about it, it becomes uncomfortable. And now I make you unhappy.
It becomes a problem.
That's
deep.
A lot of people don't realize that that's why divorce rate is at its all-time high, because we looking for motherfuckers to make us happy. Well, this should make me happy. Oh, we're compatible. Give a fuck. You can be compatible and still be unhappy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. You can do all you can for a motherfucker. And this person, you're like, I just want to make, and you know this, I just want to make a motherfucker happy. You know what I'm saying? That's your thought. You weren't thinking about, well, what's going to make Charity happy? How are you happy today, Charity? What did you do to make Charity happy?
Right.
Right? No, it was like, I'm going to make this motherfucker happy. I'm going to do everything I can. Then I learned, do that. That's not good enough. Then you turn around, do that. Still ain't good enough.
Right.
You turn around, you do this. It still ain't good enough. They're always going to look for something, regardless how hard you working to make them happy. Because at the end of the day, there's more stuff they keep giving you. It's not you. It's because they are not happy with themselves. So they put it off on you and your responsibility to make them happy.
That's deep.
And at I want to say at an early age, but at an old age, I'm not going to say old either. At a late age, I'm learning that. Like, you can't really make a mug happy, regardless of what you do and how you do it.
True. Because you know what? You think about it. And, some people may disagree, but I'm going to ask you, Charity, what you think. is that, no, for real though, you think about it. When you feel like you with somebody and if you feel like they're always the ones that's bringing up what you're not doing, or they saying, well, this need to change and that need to change to make this work. It's like, do you feel like what's going on within you that you feel like everything has to be rushed because you're trying to make it perfect when you should be okay with, as long as we're getting along, we're able to communicate and we're making each other happy in a way to where we don't need it, but our happiness brings us together as a whole. You got to ask yourself, what are you really running from? What's the problem?
That's a good question. And I think a lot of times they don't.
Yeah.
They will never tell you until, you know what, this is what I learned. And movies show this too now. It's not until a mug is on his deathbed or her deathbed, then they tell you. And, you know, I have to think about that, you know, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
You know, I need to know what's going to make me happy. What makes charity, you know, how can I bring happiness to myself? And that's a question, you know, I have to deal with every day.
And you know what? That's a good example because like you hear people that go through that when it comes with happiness in the workplace. Some people will work a job because they be like, oh, the money is good. But it's like, okay, the money's good. But then when everybody got to hear you complain every single day about this job, is it worth it? Because at the end of the day, when you're dead and gone, you can't take nothing with your ass from that job.
Sure can.
You know?
Take your credentials. The only thing is you can take what you is the relationship, the memory, and your purpose.
Right. But it's like if you already filled your purpose, then it's like in order for you to be happy, shit, you might want to go find your ass a different type of job. Because right now with how society is set up, it's like, you know, money is a major factor. Don't get me wrong, it is. But at the same time, you got to find your happiness within it. Because forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do, that's 10 times harder, you know? So you're not happy. All you creating for yourself is stress. That's it. That's all you creating for yourself is stress.
A lot of people tell themselves, I'm happy. This is what they tell themselves. I'm happy. Are you though?
Yeah, because you know the difference when somebody absolutely love their job versus someone who don't love their job. They just like, oh, I'm just working this job to pay the bill. Bills are going to always be there. They're going to be there when you dead and gone too.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. People are going to work until they damn near dead, ball and chain to their coffin. Like,
but that's an old people mentality because that's what, you know, our great-grandparents, grandparents, and parents grew up on in that mentality back in their era. But now it's just kind of like, you see people nowadays, they quitting their jobs and they was making like, you know, 6 figures to go do something to be happy. Or people leaving their job to go, you know, say, I'm about to go travel around the world. I'm catching up my retirement early, my 401k. Because some people feel like, well, hell, fuck it. You know what? I better spend it now because I don't know how long I'm going to be living. Death rates have run up just from diseases, the food we eat and everything. Yep. Nothing's guaranteed no more. We're like a fucking coupon. We aspire at some time.
Quicker than we thought.
So, you know, back then, you think about it where we were sold a dream. You know what I'm saying? We were sold a dream that didn't have an expiration date because we just thought life was going to go on forever. You know, it was called, you know, the American dream. You know, you got people over here on boats and shit coming across because, you know, we sold the American dream.
True.
You know, but it's just kind of like that dream is faded.
So faded.
You know, it's faded. But I mean, think about it. That American dream was built off of people thinking that it was going to equal to happiness. No, what it actually equal to is false hope for some people. Because what happens is when you realize you can't fulfill that need or you stressed out, your mental get under control. Most people committing suicide because they feel like they're a failure at life. Self-esteem get low. People start getting on drugs. That's what society has turned into because everybody trying to base it off that dream and equal to that happiness. And some people, how they get happiness is when they high. Because what you doing, you fantasizing. You floating into another dimensional.
Well, and you're suppressing what the trauma that you don't want to deal with.
Exactly. Because you realize, like, you know what? I can't be happy on my own. I worked too hard to try to get there and I failed at it. So let me pop this pill or drink this alcohol or whatever I need to do to, you know, fantasize about it. Let me take myself into another dimension. Yes. Because see, you feeling something different, but your mind's so fucked up, you feel like you in paradise. You know what I'm saying? But that's real life though.
No, it's real life.
Some people would rather stay high and die high so they don't have to face what's really going on because you know what? It's not nice.
So true. Or work themselves to death.
Right. Because you know what? Back to what we was talking about earlier with plan A and plan B. We were somehow brought into this world with a plan A, whether you wanted that to be your plan A or not. You know what I'm saying? And then you thought you was going to be able to fall back on plan B and plan B either disappeared or it didn't work out. You don't ever hear nobody talk about a plan C. But plan C, you know what that is? Coffin. Because that's where majority of people end up at.
No, you're right. High
you know
blood
what I'm saying?
Pressure, heart attack.
Right.
Like I feel like you gotta have a purpose in life. You gotta enjoy life. And whatever that purpose may be, That's based on
exactly.
and enjoy life. Life is not about, and we all been. And I just got to make this clear because I think people are getting things like money do make you happy. I'm gonna be honest. I tell this to my kids all the time. I said, money don't bring happiness, but it brings stability. Once again, money don't make you happy. It brings stability. You make you happy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can have zero money. I've seen people that had no money, like working from, corner stores and they're happy. They enjoy life because they enjoy themselves. I know people who got a lot of money, and trust me, they got a lot of money because they be spending it on them boats and cocaine and stuff.
And it's like, stuff like that. People, when they have a big ass house and they the only one that's living in it and they got like 10 cars, you only can drive one at a time, but you keep buying thinking like, oh, this is my pride and joy. This is my baby right here. What about the other 9 cars? You said that at the same as that time you said that when you bought these other cars. But you know what? It faded away. So then you had to heighten it a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
That's like when Apple first rolled out. I was an Apple fan. I ain't gonna even lie. I was,
You had to have the new Apple products every year.
Yeah. When it came out, I was so excited. I would be one of those techies that be like, it's like a fan, like a little sick little fan man. Like a tech or Apple will roll out with some new stuff. And it's like, oh my God, screaming at the top of my I was, right? And then I realized, once I kept getting it, I was just like, this is not making me happy.
Right.
It's still the same product. It's still, what is it bringing me? Nothing.
Nah, you right.
It making me more accessible to people.
Well, did you ever feel like, because sometimes like when people, do that, because I knew people who was the same way, was like, they still are like that to this day. Every time Apple rolled out with something new, they're like, oh, I got to have the new phone. Mm-hmm. You just got the other phone last year. It ain't even that old, but do you feel like, or do you think that when people do that, it's like, hey, I get to show people, hey, I got the new product. It's supposed to make you feel good.
It wasn't for the people. It was more for myself. Like if I get it, this is it. This would make it, And then I realized this ain't shit.
Right.
I get it. And then it's just like, okay, maybe the next one. And I get it. And that's the same thing with camera gear and film gear. Well, maybe if I get this, then, I can do this. At the end of the day, you look at this, and I look at a lot of my product now, and I'm just like, ugh, like it didn't bring the things that I wanted. And at the end of the day, it really based on me. It really boils down to me. Like, you can have the best of the best car, the best of the best product, the best of the best house. You can have all the money in your account. But at the end of the day, you got to wake up in the morning and you got to look at yourself. And that's what honestly, I wasn't doing that well. I would get up in the morning, be honest with you, and I look in the mirror real quick and I'd be like, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh, you so sexy. That's what I would do. Even when I gained weight, I was like, oh man, you looking so fit. But I didn't really look into the mirror. I had like my glasses that I had on.
Right.
How they say you have those rosy glasses, what they call?
Bifocals?
No, I didn't have any glasses, but when you see stuff, you see it like totally opposite.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name of it. I know what you're talking about.
But, I would have that on and I'd be like, oh yeah, never took them off until that experience.
Yeah, you should have said it in front of me. I would have slapped them off. I'd have been like, what you looking at?
And honestly, it's just like, oh, I got the best girl, or, she got a great education. She got money. Well, okay. That comes with a price.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you're just like, damn, I didn't really look at myself.
Right.
I was too busy trying to be a people pleaser. It's nice, get you stuck, and looking at what I can do for everybody else.
Right.
And then didn't realize, what can I do for myself? And when this is when you in a situation where you really don't know yourself that well. When a person asks you, well, what do you like? What makes you happy? Like we're asking today, okay, like what do you like? All these things, what can you bring to the table type thing? I couldn't answer any of those motherfucking things. I'm being honest.
Wow. I don't think any of us could, honestly, especially when we was younger. Mm-hmm. Hell, even still to this day, it's like, it's a process of being able to answer that question because you're still trying to figure yourself out. There's not a day go by where you're still not working on yourself. You're going to work on yourself to the day you die. Because always, what? Especially when, you growing up and you have those the preteen years where you still start trying to figure yourself out. You hit puberty. You go through so many different changes in life. You adapt and you changed accordingly, like the season, as an adult, full grown adult, same thing. But the seasons turn into like kind of a milestone in a way because you change your growth with your age. See, when we were younger, you always was changing earlier, you know what I'm saying? When you're a toddler and then you end up becoming like a big kid, preschool age, and then you go into preteen. But then once you become like, then you hit like the mid-teen to young adult. Once you get past that young adult stage, then that's when you just like, you know what? I'm not changing yearly. I'm changing like every 3 to 4 years. It's a little bit deeper because then you have to go back and backtrack on everything that you've seen yourself as or what people done told you what they see you as. And then you got to really sit down and dissect like which one was really me.
Oh, man. And that's a hard thing to deal with.
It is. You really got to ask yourself, so which one was really me? Because I hear everybody saying, well, you doing this and you did that and this is how I feel and everything. And it's all bottled up, because when you hearing that from multiple different people, you got to really sit down with yourself and say, well, which part of that is really me? Because if you really know yourself, and you're never really going to truly know yourself because you're still learning yourself. But I'm saying what I mean by is when I say you truly know yourself is that when you know that real part of you that you still working on, then you can sit down and say, nah, that was me. This is who I am now. This is the one that is showing up today. This is who I really am. Because sometimes people like to throw stuff in your face about, well, you used to be like this and this is like you like this person, you like that person. And then you have to roll back and be like, well, hold up. No, how I'm showing up to you today, this is really me. Did you choose to see this part of me? I've always been here. What did you really see? Or what did you take from me that you kept stored thinking that I was going to always be this way? Because you know what? We all have different parts of ourselves that shows up.
We change as we get older because we learn.
You know what I'm saying? We're like a flower, We come with different stems and we blossom at different times.
Oh, you're right.
And then
Absolutely
you know what?
Right.
And then when you realize there's parts of you that you want to get rid of, what happens? The petal falls off the rose. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So you have to like a part of you that you try to kill off or you want to die from, that's fine. But you also got to learn how to regrow, Sometimes a lot of us walk around dehydrated. And when we dehydrated, you know what that means? We're stubborn.
Oh, man. That's so true.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we don't want to hear about ourselves, And if you can't tell people how you is about yourself and truly mean it, then it's like you got to really look in the mirror about that too.
Yeah. People don't want to hear truth about it.
Right. I know, like for me, I can just tell you straight up, hey, I'm blunt. My deliverance to people just be raw. But you know what? And that's something I've been working on for years. Mm. My friends tell me straight up, they're like, dang, because you could have said it a little bit different, right? I probably could have. But did I know how to? Nah, because you know what? It goes to the fact of when you feel like you haven't been heard for so long and you hear what you're trying to say. So you just feel like, well, if I just say it flat out this way, people should understand it. But what I'm learning is people ain't going to comprehend it that way if my deliverance is in a different tone.
And here's the other thing too. If they ain't healed from their own trauma, they're not going to pick up what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be a defensive.
Right. No, you automatically right. You know what I'm saying? Because, I tell you all the time, I'm like, oh man, yeah. Charity, that's what I said. And I tell Phaedra, and Phaedra be like, oh my God, you said it like, I'm like, yeah, what's the problem? Because I never comprehend. I'm like, what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then like when I go to therapy, and I talk to Lindsay about it, Lindsay be like, so those sheets come back out on how to properly, relay something, but get your point across. And it don't have to be like nice, but you know what I'm saying? Like the bluntness to most people say, oh, it's harsh and rude. I don't see a problem with it. I'm just saying how I feel. Because I feel like if I didn't raise my voice and I'm not yelling and screaming, that's what I feel as rude. But I may say something, they'd be like, dang, why you crying? I don't see nothing wrong with it. Because I feel like, well, I didn't say it in a bad way. But you know what? I'm learning. Charity over here laughing because you're like, Charity know how I am. But I literally, do I not be looking confused? Like, what? I just said it, But that's one thing that, what I'm saying, I know for me, that I know I definitely have to work on, And the thing of it is, it's just like, life is one of those things where it's like a puzzle. We all trying to figure out and search to find the right pieces to put on the table. Because you're thinking, if I complete my puzzle, it's going to bring me happiness. If I tell people how I feel, they get their point across, I get my point across. It's just like, I should be happy.
You're not. It's just, that's not how it works. And I'm being honest with you. I try to be honest and truthful.
You have to nowadays. You have to.
When it comes to that. I tell them all the time, you in control of your own. Don't go find somebody that's going to make you think that's going to make you happy, because it's not going to play out that way.
Right.
For them, happiness may mean something else, that it may not mean what you know what I'm saying? and they may not have done their work.
Right.
So what they looking from you is they want you to do all the work and make them happy.
No, you're absolutely right.
And look at things through their eye, but not come together as a unit. And that's how you become together as a unit. You're both doing your own individual work. And you're learning, you say, you know what, I'm learning to be happy within myself. And that means dealing with all the layers of yourself, the insecurity layers, the asshole layer, all the layers, and you can come together with your partner and she has to do the same or he has to do the same.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So it really boils down to self-care and self-individual work.
You know, and the thing that also has to be done is that when you realize that if you at a point in your life where you feel like you're not happy, then that's when you need to take time out for yourself. And like you said before, you know, whether that's meditation, whether that just being in a room, reading a book, or just sitting with yourself, playing with your animals, whatever you feel like you have to do. Sometimes you have to take time out every day and just reevaluate your happiness. What is it that you want to do with yourself in life? But don't put a time limit on it. Don't put a timer on it.
Yeah, don't put a time limit
because that's just going to bring stress and it's going to
make you anxious.
You're right, make you anxious, but at the same time, it's going to heighten your unhappiness because then you feel like, well, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to, you know, and it's just like you don't.
What happens if you don't reach that goal next week?
Right. You become more depressed.
Because honestly, someone that struggled, everybody struggled. Everybody got strong. You start pulling back layers, you know, it don't work like that.
It don't work. It really don't work. But then at the same time, it's just kind of like one thing I've grown to learn is that you can't put a time on anything. I used to live by a timer. I did. Yeah. And you know what? I let life pass me by. And then now we're just kind of like, you know what slowed me down? My knees. It slowed me down to make me try to enjoy things now because I was so busy. I was like a road runner. I was so busy trying to please everybody else to make sure that they was happy because I knew I wasn't happy as an individual because, you know what I'm saying, I had to do it, all this stuff for the outside world because everybody seen me as different things, you know, that I never really took the time out to really enjoy life. I was too busy chasing happiness. And so when you get older and your body starts slowing down and you can't move as fast and you see everything else passing you by, you on the other side of the spectrum now, where it's like you sitting still and everything else is moving 10 times faster. You can't move with it. You ain't got no choice but to sit with yourself now. Mm-hmm. And you may not like what you see because you've seen things that you could have done different. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you got to make sure that the guilt don't come over and, you know, pay you a visit and be like, yep, you should have done this and done that. You know what I'm saying? Because all they're going to do is just dig your hole a little bit more deeper. And like I said, you know, it took a while for me to realize that, you know, I would tell my therapist, like, you know what, maybe I need to stop chasing happiness and just live life. Yeah.
Everything in the world, I feel like your authentic self, not somebody else.
Right.
And on our journey, or to save face, or to align with this person. So all these things finally get to a doorstep where the door is closed. You open, you take that knob, you walk right in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that room, it's all nothing but mirror.
Right.
So everywhere you look, you're looking at yourself, and you're gonna see them layer in the bullshit of the non-authentic self or yourself playing these roles, and you're going to get sick and it's going to make you sad, or it's going to be like, you know, how I was in a garage, just snot nose crying.
Right.
I mean, true. That being said, we went over. So this is a long podcast today. We went over today, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to thank everyone for listening, being a supporter of ours. Please tell your friends, family, loved ones, and those really are not close to, but you know they struggling. Tell them to come listen to our podcast, 293 Co Podcast, and you can find us on all platforms: Spotify, Apple
Podcast Index, iHeartRadio.
Yep.
Amazon Music.
Yep. Everybody goes to Spotify though, so that seems to be the popular.
Yeah, everybody's hitting up with that Spotify.
But you can listen to us in your car radio on your way to work or on your way back home, or you need some type of motivation or guidance. Pick up that phone, put it in there, and turn us on. But that being said, I want to thank everyone for coming out, listening, and enjoying our podcast.